Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am doing the mid-year book Freakout tag. This is a super fun tag that I did last year. I think it's a great way to take stock, like, halfway through the year, like, what have you read, what have you liked? I just think it's a fun video to do in July. This tag was originally created by Read Like Wildfire and Eli Jane. We're just gonna jump in and start in on some of these questions. So the first question is, what is the best book that you've read so far in 2016? I've picked two books because I just couldn't choose between them. The first of those is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness, inspired by Siobhan Dowd and illustrated by Jim Kay. This is an absolutely beautiful book. It is like beautifully written and illustrated as well. I think that the story is important and emotional. I'm super interested to see what they're going to do with the movie because I don't know how well the trailer represents what I got from the book, but I'm definitely still going to see it because I'm still very curious. But I absolutely adored this book. It was my first 5-star read of 2016, and I just think it's great. And my other favorite book that I've read so far this year is Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. This is a YA contemporary, gets a ton of attention here on BookTube, but it is just like so good. It has a lesbian lead character and there is a romance for her in it, and it is one of my favorite romances that I've read. Besides the fact that the book has a really cool setting, it's set in Hollywood and the lead character is a set designer, so you get to hear about all of these really interesting things about set designing and movies and stuff, and I thought that was really fascinating. And in general, this book just blew me away. I loved it. Question 2 is to share the best sequel that you've read so far in 2016, and for this one I had to go with The Invasion of the Tearling by Erica Johansson. I read The Queen of the Tearling last year, just like around the end of the year, and enjoyed it, but The Invasion of the Tearling like kicked it up a notch. It was so interesting and so good, and the lead character, Kelsey, her development as a character was so incredible to watch. I had all of these ideas about her from the first book, and as you get to learn more about her in the second book, those ideas about her change so drastically. It's an awesome world, it's a fantastic series, and I can't wait to finish off the trilogy this year. This book was fantastic, and it totally impressed me. And I actually liked it more than the first book, which is, I love it when that happens. Question 3 is to share some new releases that you haven't read yet, but you really want to. The first of those is definitely You Know Me Well by David Levithan and Nina LaCour. This came out in June. It was my most anticipated release of 2016, and now it's getting incredibly good reviews, and it's made me even more hyped to read it. I'm definitely gonna read it before the end of the year. Like, 100% that's going to happen. And the other book that was released this year that I haven't read yet but super want to is Stiletto by Danielle O'Malley. This is the sequel to The Rook. The sequel took forever to come out, but it finally just came out last month as well, and I desperately want to get my hands on it. Question 4 is to share your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year, books that are going to be coming out in the next 6 months or so. The first one that I want to mention is The Fate of the Tearling. That's the third Queen of the Tearling book. It comes out in November, I think. As I said, I'm just like super excited to finish off this trilogy. I think Kelsey's an incredible main character. I have no idea where the story's going to go, and I'm so excited to find out. I'm also really excited for Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't like Queen of Shadows, but I think that the series could come back from that, so I'm still really excited to read the book and find out more about where all of the characters end up. And finally, the other one that I'm very curious about is You Will Know Me by Megan Abbott. That book actually comes out near the end of this month. It is a thriller and it is about gymnasts, and I was a gymnast for 14 years. I don't see a whole lot of books about gymnastics, and it's a thriller. All of these things super intrigue me. The 5th question is to share your biggest disappointment of the year so far, and for that I'm unfortunately have to go with Why We Broke Up by Danielle Handler, illustrated by Myra Kalman. I have wanted to read this book for like 5 years. I finally got it, I finally read it, and I didn't like it at all. So that was a big letdown. Question 6 is, what was your biggest surprise of the year? For this one I have to say Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. I thought I would like this book, but I didn't expect to be so completely captivated by this book and the story and the characters, and I just fell in love with it, which I didn't expect at all, but made me really happy. Question 7 is to share your new favorite author, whether that is a debut author or just an author that is new to you. I'm gonna list off a couple real fast. First of all, again, Shauna Maguire, who wrote Every Heart a Doorway. I just was completely captivated by that story. Also, Nina LaCour, who wrote Everything Leads to You. I definitely want to read more of her books. I just fell in love with her writing. And then I also have to say Audrey Coulthurst. She is the author of Fire and Stars, and I read this book in May, absolutely fell in love with it. This is going to be her debut novel, which doesn't come out until November, but completely impressed me, and I can't wait to read more by her. For question 8, we are supposed to share our newest fictional crush. As I said last year when I did this tag, I don't really get crushes on fictional characters, but characters that I've kind of fallen in love with and can appreciate, I have two. There's a theme, basically like rogues. Like, if you can use the word swashbuckling to describe their character in any way, I'm like there for that. So the first person that I want to mention is Lila Bard from A Darker Shade of Magic. She's like a pirate. She's amazing. And I love her. And the other person is Thorn from the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer. Again, like those rogue characters who are bad, but like are also good. Like, I love them. He was like good in Scarlet, but in Cress is where I fell in love with him. He's pretty wonderful too. They're both pretty great. I like Lila more, but they're both really great. For question 9, I am sharing a new favorite character. One of those I have to say is Kelsey from the Queen of the Tearling series, just because I've seen her come so far as a character in Invasion of the Tearling, and I think that she is one of the most complex female characters that I've read in a good long time. I just think she's fascinating in general, so I completely fell in love with her. And the other character that I have to mention is someone that I just like fell in love with as I reread the book, and that is Amy Dunn from Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I adore Gone Girl, but I just barely reread it at the beginning of July. Completely maintained my 5 stars. I think Amy Dunn is one of the most fascinating characters ever. I adore her. I mean, clearly I love her. I'm using her as part of my thesis, but like it reminded me of how much I adore her as a character. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. For that one, I definitely have to go with A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. It's really funny because I looked at my answers for last year, and last year a book that made me cry was a book by Patrick Ness, so maybe there's like a trend forming. But A Monster Calls made me sob for like 100 pages, and me crying during a book happens fairly often, but me sobbing during a book, that does not happen very often. So yeah, this is definitely the book that made me cry the most so far this year. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. First of all, I have to say A Fire and Stars again. Fantastic. Queer princesses falling in love. It was special. It was important. Like, princesses falling in love was just something that I've been after for such a long time, so reading it and seeing it like happen before my eyes made me unbelievably happy. And then the other one that I have to mention that made me super happy is Style by Chelsea M. Cameron. This is just like a lesbian romance book, but it's YA, and there was like almost no angst, and they just got to fall in love and be happy, and that thrilled me. And even though it wasn't the best writing I've ever read, it made me so happy from start to finish. Question 12 is your favorite book to film adaptation that you saw this year. I haven't seen any new book to film adaptations actually so far this year, so I have to go with my rewatch of The Martian. I did see this last year when it originally came out, but seeing it again this year was really fun. I think it's a fantastic adaptation. I think they did a great job. It's funny, it's true to the book, and I loved rewatching it. Question 13 is to share your favorite video that you've done so far this year. This was kind of hard because I've done a lot of really fun stuff this year. I feel like I've been more creative and I've come up with new series that I've done. Like, I'm especially proud of my HP Chats series and my If You Like That Try This series. I'm so pleased with how those have come out, and so I'm really, really proud of those. I'm also incredibly proud of my girl hate discussion video. That was a video that was a long time coming for me, and getting the nerve up to finally film it, say what I wanted to say, and feel like I was proud of what I had to say was a big deal, so I'm super proud of that. But my favorite videos that I had the most fun filming this year were the couple of videos that I got to film with Janelle. I finally got her in front of the camera a few times this year, and it's going to happen more in the future. But it was just really fun to film with her because she watches all my videos, and sometimes she's in the room when I film, but it was really great to get her on the other side of that. Plus, I just like showing her off, so, you know. Question 14 is the most beautiful book that you have purchased or received so far this year. I have a couple. The first of those is We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This is at school, so I don't have it to show off, but it is just a teeny tiny little book. It's not a full book. It is kind of a speech. You can watch her TED Talk that she did that's very, very similar to this, but I think it's a gorgeous book. I've wanted my own copy of it, and I picked it up just randomly at Barnes & Noble, and I think it's gorgeous. And the other one that I want to mention is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This came in my June Owl Crate, and I think it's a gorgeous book. I love the way that the cover looks. I love the way that the spine looks. I love the way, like, the inside of the book looks. I love that it has deckled edges. Like, everything about this book is beautiful. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at. So, I love it. And the final question of this tag is, what books do you have to read by the end of the year? This was actually a super easy question because at the beginning of the year I did a top 16 to read in 2016 video. There were not actually 16 books on that list. There were like 27 because I mentioned a couple series. That's like so many. I'm more than halfway finished, so I'm totally on track. I've read about 15 of the books on that list so far. So some of the books that I still need to finish that were on that list are Pet Sematary by Stephen King, Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes, More Than This by Patrick Ness, Twilight, Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer is still on my list. Cuckoo's Calling is definitely one that I need to get to by Robert Galbraith. J.K. Rowling. A couple of physical books. I need to read Blink by Ted Dekker. And then I have my Rick Riordan books. I need to finish rereading the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. And then the last book on my list is the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series, also by Rick Riordan. I haven't read the Heroes of Olympus series, and so it was my goal to at least read the first book and get a start on this series this year. So yeah, those are all the books that I still need to read by the end of 2016. I think it's doable. I don't think it's going to be a problem because I'm halfway through. So I'm right on track. So when I said that was the last question of the tag, I was incorrect. You can see it's a new day. I filmed the rest of this video a little while ago, but apparently the mid-year book freakout tag got updated and a new question was added. The creators of this tag have since added a 16th question, and that question is to share your favorite book community member. That's Bookstagram, Booktube, Book Blogger, etc. I think this is a really cool question, which is why I decided to pop back in and add a clip into this already too long tag, but I did want to mention my favorite booktuber of this year in general, and the person that I wanted to mention is Lala from Books and Lala. I've been watching her videos for well over a year now. I just have always appreciated the criticism that she brings to her books. I think that she speaks her mind about so many books and is willing to say when they're terrible, which I completely appreciate. I adore when booktubers have that level of honesty. Lala is hilarious. She reads fantastic books. I always find new recommendations from her. And overall, I just absolutely adore Lala, and she is one of my all-time favorite booktubers for sure, definitely, and I really just wanted to be able to shout her out for this question. So, sorry for breaking away and changing my outfit and everything, but I just really wanted to shout out Lala, and I think this is a great question. So that is the tag. That is the mid-year book freakout tag. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. In the comments below, let me know some of the books that you really want to get to by the end of 2016, whether that was like on a list of books that you had to finish, or whether it's just like books that you yourself, it's your goal, you really want to read them by the end of this year. Let me know what all those are down in comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!